guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do an in-depth review of 7th and towards the end of the video I'm going to give you my price prediction. So 7th is a new mint with a lot of hype behind it, and you often see it at the top of upcoming NFT mint tier lists. So in this video I'm going to try and explain to you why people see so much potential behind this project, because it is a little bit technical. So there are going to be 3 main utilities behind this project, and I'm going to be 2 smaller ones that I'm going to mention later on. So the 3 main ones are going to be the stakeholder system, the first dynamic minting smart contract, and an innovative airdropping smart contract. So looking at the first utility is going to be the staking system. So around about 3 to 6 months after minting this NFT, you're going to have to stake it and gain S7 tokens. Now, while this is happening, the 7th team, which is going to consist of professional investors, analysts, and also very smart people within the Web3 space, are going to be looking at applications from upcoming Web3 projects. Now, by Web3, I mean anything from NFTs to cryptocurrency to AR to VR to AI. It spans over a number of different things, and they're going to be looking at these startup projects and analyzing them and see if any of them have some potential. And if they do, they're then going to introduce them to the S7 incubator, which is going to provide them target support and could offer them anything from financing to marketing, etc. In return for this help, the project is then going to offer them a certain percentage of shares of that project, which is then going to be owned by the S7 incubator. Now, which is where the cool part can happen, in that you can actually then spend the S7 tokens you earn by staking, and you can spend them to buy shares in that project, and then you're going to earn a specific NFT, which will serve as a certificate of ownership of your shares in that project. Now you can then sell the certificate NFT on the secondary market such as OpenSea, or you can keep it, and if you do, you can receive the corresponding profits based on the number of shares you hold. Now this is a really cool idea, as it basically allows you to invest in upcoming Web3 projects, which will be analyzed and scrutinized and helped by professional investors. So it's a cool way to diversify your portfolio without putting a lot of effort into it. Now, one negative I do want to mention is the fact that staking is only going to be available 3 to 6 months after minting the original NFT. So I definitely like them to shorten this time, or I think this could definitely negatively affect the floor price of this project. So looking at the main utility number 2, it is going to be the new first dynamic minting smart contract. Now they have actually produced a 10-page document on this. I'm going to briefly summarize this for you now. So basically the current minting contract is usually going to be the ERC721, but they say this isn't actually a very smart contract as it cannot adapt to current information. So what they've done is they've actually built their own smart contract, which basically can continuously capture and loop through Etherscan data and basically then react to current market conditions. Now, one potential way this technology could be used is if it could prevent contracts from being hacked, as a machine will be able to react much quicker and by itself than a human would be able to. Now, I'm no smart contract expert, so I'm not able to understand how technology could be applied exactly, but it could be some cool ways which I do not understand. However, one thing I do want to mention is that even if they manage to successfully develop this technology, they have to make sure they can then deliver utility back to their holders, as this is the main thing they're trying to do in this project, and they haven't actually outlined how they're going to do this in this 10-page document. The main third utility is going to be the innovative airdropping smart contract. And what this is going to do is this basically combine utility number 2 with their new contract system and also classic airdropping. So firstly, looking at the airdrops in general, what they're going to do is they're going to be fruit airdrops, and this is going to be a number of different fruits such as Genesis, events, season fruits. Now, they don't actually explain the utility behind these fruits, but this, for example, could be some kind of S7 token multiplier. Now, this diagram explains it quite well, and you can then combine your fruits with your original NFT to produce a new NFT plus seeds, which can then grow into the fruit. Now, a typical smart contract would basically have a preset algorithm for the success rate of the fruit ripening and the time the fruit will ripen. But what this new smart contract is going to do, and how it's going to interlink with airdropping, is that the success rate and the time of fruit ripening will then be altered with an algorithm within the contract in response to market supply and demand. Now, the way this is cool is that if supply is going to be really high and demand really low, you can often see a negative reaction on the floor price. So what could then happen is the smart contract can react to this and decrease the success rate and increase the time for fruit ripening, and what this allows to do is kind of balance out supply and demand and making the airdrops much more sustainable. Now, one thing I do want to mention again is the fact that I didn't really see this as a big issue in the first place in terms of airdrops, but again, I'm not too well versed in this area, so this is kind of a cool technology to have, and in general, airdrops are quite good for actually keeping people around. Now, moving on to the fourth and fifth utility, shout out to Excalibur for providing these, as these can be quite hard to find within their roadmap and their Discord. So one thing to mention is potentially later on they could come up with some kind of real estate or another project which you could invest in within a more stable market. For example, you could then invest into a house. You could then have an NFT which says you own 1% of a house, and this is basically just much more of a stable market to invest in. So it's potentially quite a cool idea they could implement. And the fifth utility I mentioned is going to be Moonlink, and it's going to relate to the blockchain science. Now, this is actually quite hard to understand how this works, and don't explain it very well here, but one thing they said here is it could potentially use Web2 capital to hold the floor price at a certain level, and they also tease on their Twitter that Moonlink could potentially link to some kind of employment platform, but they are very mysterious about these two different types of utilities, so I would not be too concerned about them. So overall, this is quite a cool roadmap, and it is actually pushing the space forward. But one thing I do want to say is that you have to make sure that these new utilities pushing the space forward can actually then give utility back to the original holders, which I'm not sure if they're going to do it or not, but it's definitely a cool concept they have. Now, looking at some problems I do see behind this project, the first one is going to be with the staking I mentioned previously. The second one is they're actually going to have to make sure they find really good projects early on for people to invest in, otherwise there isn't going to be much point in holding these S7 contracts. And finally, an important point is that this project is going to be quite techy and hard to understand, and a similar project to that recently is going to be Izu, and we saw that actually did not manage to sell out successfully and is not performing very well on the secondary market, as it's currently sitting right at its mint price. Because sometimes people can be put off by these very technical projects, so I do see potentially being some issues for this project. Now, moving on, again, shout out to Excalibur as they provide some quick details on the team, and people are actually quite excited about this team. And here's going to be a quick review of the core members behind it. Actually going to be more people behind the scenes, so I'm not going to cover it in this video. So this is basically going to be the blockchain scientist, and you can pause and take a quick look at the resume he has, but he has 10 years experience in the industry and is very, very well respected. They're then going to have another dedicated team, which are basically going to be the professional investors, and they're going to look after the Web3 fund sort of thing. Then they have another team of artists, and I'm going to show you the sneak peeks in a little bit, but it is very impressive. And then finally, the last individual, again, an impressive resume, and is basically going to be a Web3 manager. Now, looking at the art here, it is this kind of cool anime art, and this art isn't the main thing behind this project, but the art is actually quite impressive and something I think people could actually get behind. Now, finally, moving on to the mint details, they have actually were going to have a 0.14 mint price for both of their sales, but they have actually decreased it to 0.1 Ethereum for both of their sales, and it's going to be a 7,777 supply. Now, I like the fact they're actually listening to the community, and I do think this will help them sell out, and I think these kind of collection size and mint prices are going to be reasonably okay for these current bear market conditions. So now, moving on to my price prediction, personally, I think it's going to sit around about that 0.15 sort of mark, just because of the fact, looking at Izu's recent launch, it was not that successful, and they are similar sort of projects pushing the space forward. So I think it is going to sit around that kind of 0.15 level, but I do think it is quite a cool project with a lot of potential, especially if you're interested in investing in new kind of Web3 startups. Now, apologies if this video was a little bit bad because I'm currently filming this at 1:30 a.m. in the morning, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like and subscribe if you did, and make sure to follow me over on Twitter. Peace.